Freedom is coming tomorrow. Get ready, mama, prepare for your freedom. Freedom is coming tomorrow. Get ready, mama, prepare for your freedom. Freedom is coming tomorrow. Yahoo! You listen to mama. Yahoo! You listen to mama. Yahoo! You listen to mama.
It started like a joke and I smiled. From Meme to Momo, we said no violence. Now I know not how to smile, 'cause my loved ones are gone. There is no place to call home. Our homes have been burnt. I am homeless in my homeland. There is no place to call my home. Homeless, homeless, homeless in my homeland. When are we going to have a dialogue? We have buried more than enough. Nothing heals the past like time. When are we going to have a dialogue? We've been marginalized enough. You may fool some people sometime. You cannot fool them all the time. Homeless, homeless. I am homeless in my homeland. Homeless, homeless. I am homeless in my homeland. The difference between people is opportunity. You are not there 'cause you are great. You are there by His grace. Do not treat others like second-class people. If you close your eyes to facts, you learn from mistakes. When are we going to have a dialogue? We have buried more than enough. Nothing heals the past like time. When are we going to have a dialogue? We've been marginalized enough. You may fool some people sometime. You cannot fool them all the time. Homeless, homeless, homeless in my homeland. Homeless, homeless. I am homeless in my homeland. Homeless, homeless. I am homeless in my homeland. Why am I homeless? Homeless, homeless. I am homeless in my homeland. Homeless in my homeland. It started like a joke, and I smiled. From Meme to Momo, we said no violence. Now I know not how to smile, 'cause my loved ones are gone. There is no place to call home. Our homes have been burnt. I am homeless in my homeland. There is no place to call my home. Homeless, homeless, homeless in my homeland. When are we going to have a dialogue? We have buried more than enough. Nothing heals the past like time. When are we going to have a dialogue? We've been marginalized enough. You may fool some people sometime. You cannot fool them all the time. Homeless, homeless. I am homeless in my homeland. Homeless, homeless. I am homeless in my homeland. The difference between people is opportunity. You are not there, 'cause you are great. You are there by His grace. Do not treat others like second-class people. If you close your eyes to facts, you learn through mistakes. When are we going to have a dialogue? We have buried more than enough. Nothing heals the past like time. When are we going to have a dialogue? We've been marginalized enough. You may fool some people sometime. You cannot fool them all the time. Homeless, homeless, homeless in my homeland. Homeless, homeless. I am homeless in my homeland. Homeless, homeless. I am homeless in my homeland. Why am I homeless? Homeless, homeless. I am homeless in my homeland. Homeless in my homeland.
God. All right. You are all welcome to yet another edition of the program Ethics for an Emerging Nation here on ABC Television. We are glad to have you down there watching us in Ambazonia and around the world. What a great privilege for me to be a host today. And I am also having a co-host on our program today. We're sorry that we're starting this late, 15 minutes late. We're supposed to be at the top of the hour, but we promise you it will be a great show and we will deliver all that was planned for today. Just help me welcome my co-host to the program today, Mama Manka. Mama Manka, you are welcome to the program today.
Thank you, thank you,
Amen.
thank you. I'm excited to be with you today on the show. My name is Ma Manka. I'm looking forward to this program because it's talking about something that is really dear to my heart, that I live it and breathe it every day. Ethics, ethics, ethics. And I'm looking forward to having a very spirited conversation with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Manka. You will be assisting me as co-host today in the program. But on our panelists will be Barrister Mensa Timothy. You are welcome to the program today.
I can see you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm sure most people who are fans of this club are already familiar with me. My name is Barrister Timothy Mbese. Thank you.
Your face. Can you sit a little
Did you
bit
get?
close? Again, with us in the program today also is Dr. John T. Tanta. You are welcome to the program today, Dr. John.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this opportunity once more to be on this program. It is a great honor for me to be part of this great panel. And as Ma said before, I'm looking forward to seeing to participating in a very exciting program tonight. Thank you all, and thank you to all Ambazonians around the world who are watching right now.
Thank you so much. And also with us in the studio is Comrade George. Comrade George Tega. You are welcome to the program. Is Comrade George there with us today? All right. I also know that we were supposed to be having Dr. Thomas, but it looked like he indicated that he just been called off for duty, so he might likely not really be with us in the program today. But we are glad that we are all here for our program, Ethics for an Emerging Ambazonia. We don't just want to put it out there, an emerging nation. The nation is Ambazonia. And what ethics is all about is the ability for people to live right, the ability for people to be able to understand how to respect one another, how to live with good morals, the ability to be truthful. Let your yes be yes, let your no be no. Today, having introduced ourselves, I would like to ask Barrister to just give us a little recap of what you guys did last week. There was a very fantastic program last week. Can you just do us a recap of what we talked on last week, and just to let our people know the values of ethics that we're talking about in Amazonia?
Thank you, sir. I think last week we introduced what is meant by ethics and why we need it in our communities. We defined ethics last week as the moral compass of the society, and we said that it will be good, it is good, and it will still be good. When we get to Amazonia, we should be an ethical society. Not an ethical society only among the rulers, no. Like in every family, it should start from the lowest level, from the children in the home up to the grandparents. So we explain why we needed ethics. At the very least, administratively at the level of the counties, and if possible, the LGAs, the local government areas, because it moralizes the society. It teaches us moral upbringing, which we explain had been actually abandoned in the past 60 years due to the La Republic notion. And we explain how today in Cameroon, the region which is actually the foundation of every moral thing that we talk about, religion is not even recognized as a subject worth teaching, talk less of using it as a certificate subject in Cameroon, which has, if you look at Cameroon, La Republic as we imagine it, you see the moral decadence of the society. Bribery has become the norm. In fact, if you give bribe, if you give bribe, you are rewarded with that. Or if you receive bribe, that's when you have better rewards, better promotions. And so we think that we explain that when we get to our own Amazonia, we must be different. And we got the cure from our own first leaders. We say, for example, that the Fanchas, the Munas, the Juas, they were all religious people, they were all teachers, and they were all teachers of missionary institutions. Jua and Fancha, they were Catholics. Muna was a Presbyterian, what they used to call them Basel Mission, and so on. So that's why they were led into all this, because they came in contact with people who had no morals, who could just tell open lies, and the people believed them, thinking that they were like them. So we have determined that going back to where we used to be and where we want to be in future, morality must be part of our own society. Wrongdoing is common, but he pointed out it is reduced. I think that's almost all what we said last week.
Thank you so much, Barrister. You remind me of those days when I grew up. We used to have what they call moral instruction classes in our secondary schools. I remember I used to be in GDC Women those days, and they were literally allow churches to come to the campuses and teach what we call moral instruction. So I don't know whether that practice is still going on today, but those are the ethics that the Bible said, train up a child in the way he should grow. When he grows up, he will not depart from it. Those are the kind of ethics that we grow up to see, which I don't know if those ethics are still there today, because the way we saw life when we grow up to maturity, and for you to get a job, no matter how qualified you are, the status quo was that you have to bribe before you can be given a position. And so it's a sickly situation. Yeah, let me hear from you, Dr. John. What can you add to that concerning what we talked of last week on ethics?
Yes. Yes, thank you. Barista Tim actually did a very good summary of what we said last week. But what I can only add is that is re-emphasizing on the fact that it is going to involve everybody from every rungs of society, right from the grassroots right to the leadership of the country. That's why we last week we spoke about every local government areas, every counties must set up committees that would check these things. And I would like to add here that it is not only putting these things on paper or saying it, we must try to see that these things are being practiced. We know that in our neighboring country, La Republique, there is one president who came to power in 1982, and the word for the day, the word for his reign was going to be rigor and moralization. But we know how it all ended. So we are not just here for what the Bible said, be ye not only hearers but doers of what you hear. So we want to train our people. We want to make sure that people are trained to be active in practicing ethical behavior or being observant. They should be the eye of our society, because we mentioned the example of the Western world where we're living in, where even the society of the people on the street are also because of their ethical behavior, they can easily report cases when they see something happening up. So these are those things, and we also mentioned the fact that since we know the past history where we're coming from, West Cameroon, it was a very functional ethical society. So we are actually not like Southern Sudan, which had no history, So we know what we are capable of, and we know what we shall be capable of. I think that is what I can add here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. John. Before we watch a little clip of values that one of our men of God serving in Uganda talk about, let me just say, like Barrister began, every nation around the world, I have seen people compare and mock Africans that they pray too much. Meanwhile, people like Japan, they don't pray, but they are more developed than us. Then we spend all our time praying. The problem is not that. The problem is that we were raised in Africa with very bad moral systems. When somebody see a red light, he wants to beat that red light. But places like Japan, when the light is red, people just obey. It's a natural phenomenon that you just obey the laws of the land. But when you are raised in a land where you are driving your car, you have all your papers, yet the police still want you to give bribe. Tell me how anybody's going to love to get papers. You're not going to want to get those papers because you know that, hey, I got the paper, I am still forced to give bribe. So let me just stay without the paper so that if I'm giving the bribe, I have a reason why I'm giving it. So those are the kind of things that if the government, if the law enforcement is already fallen and cannot keep the ethics and the values of human right and just respect one another, it's going to follow suit with every other person. But before we come back to continue on what we really have for today, let's watch this clip that will be played on our screen. Studio, if you have that script ready, can you play for us now? Thank you so much.
Corruption is a vile disease that sucks and drains the health out of something good. Corruption in society is an evil moral infection that keeps community in a state of perpetual sickness. Corruption is a moral virus. It's so potent it leaves its host sick, lethargic, and unable to realize and accomplish all that a well person can. Where corruption thrives, poverty and not prosperity thrives. Wealth is grabbed into the greedy, grubby hands of those who get fat on the toil and labor of good people. Corruption benefits only temporarily those who participate in it. Everyone else is a victim of the theft, the deceit, the dishonesty, and the lies that corruption feeds on. You need to know that a corrupt person is stealing from you. Corruption is filthy work and despicable acts of treachery done under the table and behind closed doors. Corruption is a disgusting shame. Corruption keeps a nation back from true development and from progress. Wise investors steer clear of a corrupt environment. They would rather put their resources into a place where the playing field of opportunity is equal for all and not bent towards feeding the financial lust of corrupt, lying, cheating, thieving politicians and government officials. How many wonderful development projects have been lost because the investors didn't want to do business in a swamp of evil? When those great projects go to another nation or to some other place, we all lose. Believe me when I tell you that corruption steals from you, it steals from all of us. Corruption plunders the nation's wealth. Corrupt people compromise on truth, equity, and fairness, choosing instead to feed off the short-term benefits of crookedness, exploitation, and financial perversion. Corruption is not just a personal matter, it's a culture. It's a way of life, not just for individual people, but for companies, communities, governments, and nations. Corrupt nations, hiding behind large companies, will seek to invest in other weak nations in order to take over the assets of the nation that they've invested into. They will provide financial loans to a nation for the much needed infrastructure, and they will do it with assets that they provide. They will sign contracts by lining the pockets of rotten government officials who participate in this kind of corruption and are then held hostage by their own deceit and greed. Corruption is nothing less than a form of theft and national robbery. A corrupt person steals from everyone in society. We all lose when corruption is rampant. Those who participate in corruption have chosen evil over good, lies over truth, and personal gain over well-being of all. To be corrupt means to be rotten. When meat is corrupt, it's rotten and it stinks. Rotten meat can't be eaten. When a person is corrupt, he's rotten and unfit for a place in the community. A corrupt person should be jailed in order to protect society from the vile deeds of the corrupt person. Government should be protecting us from the foul results of corruption instead of being the proponents and participants in corruption. When corruption is systemic, when it's a culture and a way of life, when corruption thrives, it destroys the health of the community and nation. Now let me tell you something. Defeating corruption is a very difficult thing. The love of money is the root of all evil, the Bible says. People who love money will do almost anything to get it. Those who choose to stand up against corruption, you need to know that we're going to be involved in a war. We will be threatened, vilified, intimidated, marginalized, and ridiculed. These kind of people who stand up against corruption will often feel alone, as if they are the problem instead of the solution. Corruption can only be defeated when enough people have had enough and decide to do something about it. Africa needs to raise up a new generation of corrupt-free young people who together and in support of one another build a beautiful new corrupt-free Africa. We need a new generation of young people to fill the places of leadership who think differently and are motivated not by greed, but a genuine sense of servanthood to the people of our community. The church exists to call the nation back to righteousness. We are here to lift the standard of good that God requires for prosperity and health to flourish across the land. The Bible says, "Woe to those who acquit the guilty for a bribe, but deny justice to the innocent. Therefore, as tongues of fire lick up straw, and as dry grass sinks down in the flames, so their roots will decay and their flowers blow away like dust, for they have rejected the law of the Lord Almighty." We all need to be reminded that from time to time, God has created everything. Therefore, he owns everything. He is the final authority over everything, and he has the right to determine how everything should be managed and used. We own nothing. What we have, we only manage on God's behalf. We need to be reminded that God, the righteous judge, requires every one of us on a day he is appointed to stand before him and to give an account for what we did with his property, with the positions and the people that he entrusted into our hands. God, the righteous judge, will act and decide justly. He will not forever allow the corrupt to thrive and dominate the poor by their evil and corruption.
Right.
Oh, young Ugandan, you who hold the future of this nation in your hand, the most important message that I can give you today in this anti-corruption week is this: never pay a bribe and never demand one. I've had the honor of living in Uganda for almost 40 years. I came here to preach the good news about Jesus and to call this nation back to God and to godliness. I can confidently tell you that over those 40 years I have never paid a bribe, and I'm proud of it. The way to kill corruption is for all of us to just say no.
The way to kill it is for all of us to say no. And that is what it's all about. That is what ethics is all about. Don't take bribe, don't collect bribe. Don't give bribe and don't take a bribe. Ethics
Yes,
is the
Pastor.
moral fabric on which every society is bettered on which every nation is bettered on. Any nation that disregards ethics, his downfall is sooner than later. In the second phase of our program today, because we're running out of time, no time to comment more on the video we just watched, I'm going to hand this second phase of our program to my co-host, Mami Manka, who is going to go ahead to speak on, or whether to interview our guests today on the modalities on how Amazonians can begin to utilize ethics. How can you complain about something? The forms that we have available and how we can begin to practice this even before we get to Amazonia. Manka, you have the microphone to take over from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Victor. Thank you. I know we are running out of time, but I have to make a comment about the video we just watched. And I will also allow our panelists, as they go through, to make a comment, because this is such an important video that we just watched, comparing immorality of or corruption in a country to health. Comparing when you are a corrupt person, or if a country is corrupt, the health of the nation is sick. So, and we can see it. We can see it in La République. It is a sick nation. We can see how a corrupt individual collects money, and I'm pretty sure the minister's wife who touched the money. If you went outside and looked in her family, there were people there who could have used that money to help themselves. Corruption is a disease, and we are working hard in our new nation, Ambazonia, to make sure that when that time comes and we are there, we would not be a sick nation. And we will thrive, we will develop, and we will not have our youth leaving the country like they are doing right now in droves. So while preparing for this beautiful, healthy nation, we, the ethics committee, have been meeting, and we have been working on forms that we are going to present to you guys, including us, because the health of a nation starts with the health of the persons leading the nation. So that means that we are going to present to you guys some forms, and so that everyone will know how, when you have a complaint, how the process of it, or if you have to appeal the complaint, the process of it. So I'm going to start with, is Dr. Ndula here?
No, he's unavoidably
Just a
absent for a while.
program.
So he's out. Okay, so he got called back to work. All right, based on that, then we're going to start with Dr. John Titanta. Dr. John Titanta.
Yes.
We are going to start with you, and the form we are going to first discuss is how to make a complaint. How is it that you are going to complain when you have an issue going on? So, Dr. Titanta,
Yes.
do you want to we like for you to discuss the process, starting with the complainant.
All right. So, for a complaint to be accepted, certain criteria must be fulfilled. And the first criteria is, first of all, to fill a form. And that form will consist of the date when you are making your complaint. You will have to include your name, the name of the person complaining. Your name and your full name, your surname, and your last name. If there are many of you complaining, must also state what is their status, what is their capabilities. Or in a case, for example, they may be working in a company, they may be working for a government department. They must be able. They must say what is their function in the department where they are working.
Dr. Titanta, let me ask you a question. I'm going to ask you a question here. So, are you saying that the complainant must only be working for the government? Can it be a citizen?
No, that was just if you are working for the government, but the complaint can be made by everybody, even citizens of the country that are not working for government. For example, you can be driving your car around, a policeman stops you and asks bribe from you. You have the right as a citizen to ask the identification of that officer, so that you should be able to lay a complaint and say this complaint is against this person. So you, as a citizen, you have the right to complain, and for in that case of a single, just a personal complaint, you need maybe if you have a witness, it will be good. But if you don't have a witness, it's no problem. You can still lodge your complaint. But the most important thing is that every officer, like the uniform officer, they will always have their identity, their badge number. You should ask those things. So when you're complaining, you must be able to state who are you lodging the complaint against. You must give the name. Yeah.
I have another question for you.
Yeah.
Where would we be able to find these forms from? So where would a witness who wants to, or somebody, a defendant, the complainant who wants to file a complaint, where should they go to get these forms?
These forms will be available at every local government authorities throughout the counties, and it will be available in all county headquarters. Everywhere where you have administrative units, you will have these forms that you can collect, and they will be free of charge.
Thank you. So you were talking about the witness. So I will let you continue to discuss the form.
Yes. So if you are just an individual complaint, you can supply a witness. But if you are a complainant from a company, from a government department, there must be at least two more signatories to the document that will be filed. There must be at least two more signatories. Let me say, you are working, for example, in at the governor's office. Let me say, if you are working at the government and find there is a complaint you are lodging against somebody, of course, that complaint you are lodging, you must be able to have people working in that same department that agree with you, and then they agree to put down the signature. At least two people. So
let me ask you this. Let me ask you this then. So are you saying that, supposing it's a sexual harassment complaint where there are no witnesses, are you therefore saying that the person must find a witness?
in those specific, that's like a personal complaint. It's a personal complaint in this case, but it's not a complaint on a behavior that involves the whole department. This is like one-to-one kind of complaint, so it falls in that kind of category of a citizen complaint. So you don't need witness for that.
All right, thank you. I had to clarify that. So that means that
Yeah.
there can be situations where an individual can complain about the boss,
Yes.
and it is not witnessed, and so they do not have to find persons who would come and sign that they actually witnessed it.
Yes.
Okay,
But
thank you.
for that, yes, and it's very important for the moral rectitude, because people can just get up and lodge complaints about when maybe because they want some, they're trying to get something out of it. So the moral aspect, we have to check on this kind of thing when they complain, because complaint will not always be acceptable, because you need to be investigated.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, so now let's discuss the subject matter. So the individual who is complaining has to write what the situation is. Can you discuss that for us?
Yes, the individual who is must, first of all, you must state in form of bullet points what are you complaining about. You must clearly state what you are complaining about, and there is a space available in the form for you to do that.
Okay, awesome. So there is a location for you to
On the
write
form.
what your issue is about on the form.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right. Are there going to be signatures? Whoever write, will the ethics committees accept any forms if there are no signatures?
No form will be accepted without all the criteria being fulfilled. One signature is one of those things that must be on the form, the dated and signed. So it's very important.
Thank you.
We don't just want people to write anything there and anonymous and send out there. No, we want people to be responsible for whatever they are complaining about. People should take responsibility.
Doctor.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Titanta. So that is the first form that we have discussed. The first form is the complainant, the initial complaint. Somebody has an issue that is going on, and now they want to come and complain to the government so that it should be investigated. Now, we are going to move on to the next form, and I'm going to call on Dr. George Tega. George Tega, I
No,
want
it's
us
not
to
today.
discuss.
It's not today. You're just gonna use Barrister and Dr. John.
Okay, Barrister, back to you then. Barrister,
Thank you,
Barrister
madam.
Dr. Barrister Mbeseha.
I'm not a doctor yet, so
So, you know
okay.
what? In my eyes, let me tell you this. In my eyes, you are a doctor by profession, okay? But when I say the profession,
Okay.
I mean the lawyer profession. So,
Thank you for
barrister,
the yes.
barrister,
Before I
barrister,
go to the appeal template, let me explain
yes.
something for everybody to understand. Uh, we said that we need all complaints should be in writing. Every complaint ethically should be in writing. And there are two reasons for this. If you just come and narrate your story, when we were young, we were in primary school, there used to be something they call reported speech. It was so difficult because you have to go and report what somebody told you. If two people are reporting the same event, they don't report the same thing. So we agreed that everything should be in writing so that it is permanent. The second reason is that the person against whom you are complaining is going to have that complaint because the procedure is that when you send in a complaint, we send it to the person who is being accused. So the person can give his or her own version of the story. So there's nothing for you to hide there. Secondly, again, on the witnesses which my colleague just said, say if you see the template, it says witnesses if any. If you don't have a witness, no problem. File a complaint. And you talk about sexual harassment as an example. There's something which we call in this sort of things uh, whistleblower. If you're reporting against your boss, for example, and you think that this guy would come back and harass you, you still make a report. Maybe we'll put a pen name there, but give to us the ethics, or give to the ethics your real name, so that guy will not come and follow you in the cartier and kill you. That's the reason. Now to the appeal. How do you appeal a matter? If the matter was heard, say in Kuba or Bamenda County, I didn't like the result. You didn't like the outcome. You must get another form, which we call the appeal form. It's almost a duplicate of what was in the original complaint. But the only difference is that you must include the decision that you are appealing against. This is what they said in Bamenda, or this is what they said in Kumba or Boya. And I'm not satisfied because of one, two, three, four, five reasons. You have to give the reasons.
Thank
Because
you.
if you don't give us the complaint and you don't give us the reasons why you are appealing, we will not go anywhere. This time, we're not going to send your reasons of appeal to the person who won the case, to the defendant. He would know, but they are not bound to reply. When it is hearing time, that time they already know what you appeal, what you said. They were to give their own reply based on what you said. I disagreed with this judgment because ABC was relative to CDY. So, for example, that's just an illustration. So they have, therefore, to know exactly why you are appealing the matter. The forms are there. The forms are just samples. When they go to the counties and you can adopt them, provided the content is the same thing for every local government, for every LGA. You do that at your own level, and then, of course, if it's an appeal, when the appeal comes up, with this information that we already have, we know the judgment that was given. It is your duty to give us the judgment that you're appealing against. It is your duty to tell us why you are appealing against the decision of the committee. And think, no, this is not like a court. It's something similar to a court, but it's not a court. Because we'll get back to Boya, for example. There will still be the Department of Justice, the Ministry of Justice, that will have magistrates, that will have judges sitting in court, sending you to jail. But that Department of Justice is not going to replace the ethics. Ethics will always be there, doing the moral compass of the society. And so don't be afraid. Again, if you're a whistleblower, somebody who doesn't want his or her face to be known, there's still room for you. Put down your story, and of course, your witnesses. If you don't have any witness, no problem. But be sure that what you are saying is correct, because that story that you're complaining about is going to be turned over to your opponent, the man you're complaining against. He or she must see it. Thank you, madam.
Barrister, are we saying that we are going to keep these records? I know we're getting close to a time. Are we saying that all these complaints that are being will be written out and the appeals, are we going to save them?
At the level of the national ethics, we save them. We have been saving them. And the same thing should apply to all, whether they are county or local government areas. They should save them for their own records. Because it's not every case that will reach national ethics. But for your own record, because if you don't save them, what will be a precedent? A similar case may come tomorrow. You have nothing to refer to. But when you keep the documents safe, the complaint, somebody, a similar complaint may come from another person. Then you use the precedent you use in deciding the other one. You look at what you did before and say, okay, this thing falls in the same line with this. Based on what we said 2 days ago, a year ago, we are going to take the same procedure. So in summary, they should be saved.
Can I ask, I'm going to throw out this to you, the panelists, general question. Would you guys suggest that based on these records that we are keeping, would it be a good idea to use the information when somebody is running for office? Would that be a good idea when we get to Boya? Who wants to take that on?
Ethics.
Let me start from it. I think it's not when we'll get to Boya. Right now at the IG level, what we call vetting. If the president nominates you for an office, the Restoration Council is supposed to vet. What do they mean by vetting? To find out about you. If, for example, you are being nominated to do something called in finance, and say you're from Mezam or from Manu, and there are records within the ethics committee of Manu or Mezam that show that you had embezzled money, or you are not accounted for money that was given to you. That is good evidence to hold your nomination down. And so at this level we're doing it, it just facilitates the work of those people vetting. Before the president even nominates you for something and sends it to the Restoration Council, he does his own vetting. There are people in the presidency who vet. They nominate Mama Nka to be Minister of Women's Affairs. They nominate me to be Minister of Women's Affairs. And then they discover that in Boya, in my records, I have become a woman harasser. That is enough for the president to say, look, I'm not taking this man into this office because he already has a background which is not good enough. I think that's what it is. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that explanation. Thank you so much for that explanation. I'm going to have to pass it on to Pastor Victor. Pastor Victor, we still have to talk about the process of setting up an ethics committee in any of our government offices and all our LGAs. Could you talk about, could you take that on, please?
Oh, okay. Even though I saw as though Dr. John Titanta wanted to say something on that
Then let's
question.
go to him.
Yes, Dr. John, let's hear what your take will be on that very sensitive question. Would this apply when we get to Boya?
I was going in the same line of reasoning as a barrister. It is very important. We can actually say that what we are going through right now in our revolution is the fact that we are not able to do a background check of people before they are given positions. So I think it's a very good idea for these things to be kept, so that background checks can be done before people are given positions of responsibility. We are fortunate to live here in the West, where we see it. Even applying for any job, they will ask for recommendation letter. They will ask for letter. They themselves, they will do the background check for you. So it is normal. If we want an ethical society, we must keep this record, because you may not want to employ a child molester to go and be a teacher in a nursery school. You see, so those things are very important. It is very, we have to keep those records. Of course, the privacy of the individual, we must make sure privacy laws are applied here, and use them only when it is necessary to use them.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yes, I will just echo with what both of you have said. To be candid, it's not even about just waiting until you get to Boya. Right now, even like Dr. John just said, most of the weaknesses we've seen in the appointments that our president have made, or other LGAs or county heads have made, then they fail us, is because we don't know who is who. Look at even the issue of my trip to Boya, that they were singing the president's name. Meanwhile, we have all these clandestine people who said, "Oh, I can take care of our boys in Tico, I can take care of our boys in Memea," and money was being pumped to them. We didn't know who they were. We didn't do any background check to know whether these are truthful people that we can trust our money into their hands. And look at even what we are hearing now with the money that the president trusted in the hands of the vice president and former secretary of state and former vice president for whatever they were going to do with it. Still, this, you see, ethics is something that if a nation practices it well, there's no way that nation can fail, because you are indirectly practicing the will of God. Ethics is simply saying, can you be truthful? Can we trust you with money? Can we trust you with this position? Are you trustworthy that we can look at the clip that we just watched? That man said, corruption is a moral virus that
Yes, it is.
it's very difficult to destroy. It's a virus on its own, and I think, is it 4 years ago or 3 years ago, that the census came out among about the most corrupt nations in the world, and Cameroon, La Republic, was the third corrupt nation in the world. You can imagine that. How can such an image be held about you? You know, because a child is born, for a birth certificate to be made for a child, you are being asked to give bribe. Come on now, what else can you do for free? You know, we 2 years ago we saw the woman in Douala who was being operated upon by her own sister to take out a child, because hey, it was a matter of give birth, bring forth these children from this woman's womb, and then money will be paid. But it was like, if you cannot pay the money now. Meanwhile, if somebody had corrupted one of those doctors, they would have gone ahead to do it. So it's the bedrock on which every society is built, for us to see people work and respect one another, and be able to not be egoistic, not just want to, you see, like what the video we watched said. People will, like what Mama Manka was saying, a minister will steal money and pile in cartons upon cartons in their houses, and it will, even one day the wife get angry and burn it. Meanwhile, the country is suffering. The country is suffering. So these are the kind of moral, ethical values that we're saying when we get to Ambazonia, or even before we get to Ambazonia, right now we should start applying them. Mama Manka, you had posed a question about how we can get this done in our local governments. In fact, I am here as the ethics head for Mogamo. And to be candid, it is when I became part of the group that I really understood what I needed to do. And I think one is still putting that program together. And I think that every LGA and every county should be able to put a program together for the ethics department in that LGA, because it will be that program that will help before we elect somebody for a position at the level of the LGA. We will run their background check. We will know whether is this person trustworthy, and I think we will encourage that through all our LGAs, that the ethics department be very active. We should not just be, to be candid, for right now, I can tell you, I'm just a silent voice in our LGA, being the ethics head. I didn't even know that I had to put together my own team that should be able to work. But I think from what we're seeing here, we want to encourage. Barrister, I don't know if Barrister, I don't know if I'm saying the truth. Are we supposed to create those departments as those who are coming from the LGS? Let me not propaganda something wrong here. What are we supposed to do at the level of the LGS, Barrister? Sorry,
At
Barrister
the level
Timothy.
of
Thank
the
you.
LGA, at the level of the LGA, there is supposed to be an ethics committee, at least 3 people. Maybe sometimes at your own level, at the level of the LGA, it's not every complaint that must go to that template. If people are just quarreling over nothing, they could come to you and say, look, this man insulted me here, this madam did said this to me. That one can be regulated right there. It is still ethical. But at the LGA, we recommend that there should be an ethics commission of 3 people. Now we recognize that some LGAs are not yet formed. But right now that we're speaking, every county is established. All counties are established. The 13
Right.
counties, they have yes. So at the very least, let us have county executive commissions.
LGS. Right.
They should
And I
exist in
think
every
from what you
county.
are saying, sorry to cut you short there. I think it's easier at the level of the county because if every LGA has an ethics commissioner, it means at the level of the county, it will be the commissioners from all those LGA that will comprise that body, right?
Not
Yes.
necessarily that.
Yes.
All what we need is that the qualification for being in the commission, ethics, is that you are a person of integrity, somebody who is respected. You can get somebody from outside, but the law does not say they must choose from all the ethics of Nizam, 10 of them, to get one. If that is the best way for you, that is still good. Otherwise, you can still see an Opa, an Oma who sits there who doesn't belong to anything, whom you trust, and say, Mommy, come and be here. You are the chair of this ethics in Nizam, or Manu, or Libyan, wherever it is. We don't have any fixed rules, but we have fixed numbers. Odd numbers, 3, 5, at the level of the counties and the LGAs. There's a reason why they are odd. So that in any case, when you are deciding, you expect the majority to carry the vote. Two out of 3 is a majority. 3 out of 5 is a majority.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let me say something, Pastor. Also, the criteria that we also discussed included conflict of interest. That means that I'm going to take, for example, the president cannot be the chair of the ethics committee, or the chair of a county cannot be in the ethics committee. It has to be from the lay people, or just members, or just like the lawyer said, somebody from outside who is not part of who we know has moral integrity, who will not be swayed in any way, who would think in the best interest of everyone, and people like he said, with no specific, who do not really have any specific criteria. There's no specific criteria, but it has to be people with integrity. But we have to make sure also that there are no conflicts of interest. The other thing that the committee also discussed included making sure that if you have a conflict of interest when you are judging a case, for instance, you have a lived experience, or you have had an issue that is very similar. You are related to the case going on in any way. You have to remove yourself. when that case is being discussed, so that you would we all know that we are human beings and we all have emotions triggered from whatever you have experienced will not be applied to the situation. The other thing we talked about is knowing self-reflection. So if you are a part of the ethics committee, you need to know your values and actually decide whether will you be objective. If you know you cannot be objective, there's absolutely nothing wrong in saying, no, I don't want to be a part of the committee.
Okay.
Yeah,
Let me
I
just
just want to
Good.
add here about
Okay. Go ahead.
the I would just want to add here concerning this conflict of interest. Let me give an example. You are a member of the executive. You cannot at the same time be a member of the parliament, the restoration council, for example, because one is supposed to check the order. So what if a matter of the executive come to the restoration council and you are at the same time a leader, a chairperson of a county or a chairperson of a local, you are supposed to check the problem of the things that are arising from the executive. But you are sitting in there and you are also part of the executive. So there is a conflict of interest. And right now in this revision, we're having this kind of situation where people are chairs of their counties and at the same time they are members of the restoration council. It shouldn't be so. These are the kind of things that we're already experiencing at this time, and we must try to eliminate these things before we even reach Buya. Because we don't want politicians who at the same time are members of parliament and they are also working for the government. No, we don't want this kind of thing. These are the kind of thing we talk about, conflict of interest.
Thank you.
let me just add that, at this stage where we are, there's one thing which is one of our weaknesses is that we don't have enough volunteers. We're all volunteers. We don't have enough people, especially at the level of the LGAs. Let me say, take for example, that you are alone. Like you say, it takes man for Njikwa, for example. And you're just alone there. It doesn't prevent you solving the problem. If an issue comes up, the ethics committee is not bound to be permanent. The one that sits at national level is permanent, but down there is not bound to be permanent. If you are sitting in Jikwa and you are the lone person who is in charge of ethics, and the matter comes up, you are at liberty to get two people, say, join us for this purpose of this matter. We solve this problem. That's ethics. If we don't have enough people to have people permanently put somewhere, we can do all that. It is only at the national level that at least at the level of the nation we cannot lack 7 people to say in the ethics. But to cover it up, again, the complainants, whoever is complaining, they also have the right to say, look, I'm sending this complaint to this ethics. I know that that man there doesn't like me, so I don't want you to hear my case. I know that woman doesn't want me. So you can tell an ethics member, a commissioner, to recuse himself or herself. Because you know him, you know that people have quarreled over a beer, people have fought over a husband or over a girlfriend. So it's your right, you can do all that. Thank you.
Okay.
Do we
I
have enough?
wanted to say,
Do
Mama,
we have enough time?
well, we can round up in the next 3 minutes. That would have given us the 15 minutes we lost at the beginning. So if we can take the last words from everybody to make up our 1 hour, that would be good as we round up for today.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and tell you again. We have the forms available. The forms will be made available to every LGA. Just like the pastor said, I belong to the Bafut LGA, and I know my name has shown up on the ethics, and I was the only member of ethics, and I know I haven't formed. So right now, I am working, since I'm involved in this now, and I will be going back to the Bafut LGA so that we can also put together our own ethics committee. The forms will be sent out to all LGA chairs so that they can now distribute to their ethics committee and then keep them available, because you can edit now. Instead of putting it as the national ethics, you can now put the logo for your LGA. So you will be able. That's the only thing we are actually asking for you to edit. Put your logo because we want uniformity. We don't want something happening because eventually, if there is an appeal, it will go to the county level. And also, to one thing I want to add: if an individual is alone in an LGA or they are very few, and they know they cannot handle it, they can go to their county level for them to handle the situation. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Barrister, any last words from you for today's program?
My last word is that I guess many Ambazonians are watching us. As of now, it looks as if we are totally decayed morally. Those of us who belong to different forests, you can see the level of insults, the level of false accusations, the level of rudeness that is practiced there. They are all Ambazonians who lack the moral rectitude in general. So can we look at this ethics as something serious? It helps you. It helps me. You don't need to destroy the person who decides. You don't need to kill somebody to make a point. So ethics is good. It is good for your family. It is good for your society. In fact, the LGA, the county is a community of people. Again, this ethics thing is not to catch you to prison. We don't have prisons for anybody. And let me conclude. You just mentioned the issue of money the president gave out. That who gave out, the president gave it money out. But why has it become an issue now? It has become an issue because the president was morally right to tell the public what happened to the money. He told us, he called a meeting and said, well, this is what happened. He didn't even accuse anybody. I was in that meeting. But it is good that we know that we failed there. Somebody scammed us. If the president had not told us, if he had not been prepared to come out to the criticism, we would never have known. It would have remained classified. So morally, ethics, where you go wrong are media errors. And we'll move forward. Thank you.
Yeah.
Dr.
Yeah, I
John.
will. My last words for tonight is that we must learn to honor the institution that we have in place. When matters that are supposed to be solved by ethical commission must remain at the ethical commission. We should not be carrying matters from one department to another department. Things that are supposed to be ethical must remain in the ethical, solved by the ethical, unless it becomes a criminal thing that needs to go to a judicial system. So that's and we must hit the ball right now by distributing this making, setting up our ethical committees in our LGS and set the ball rolling. Get these forms publicized and let our people know about it. Not only here, even those back on ground zero, to let us also let them know that it's already active. We have our country. We have our country, and we just need to get to the point where we are actually governing the geographical area which is ours. Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Let me
much.
just say one thing.
I was
Let me just say one thing.
okay.
All ethics officers are called commissioners. Be it at the level of the county, at the level of the LGA, they are called commissioners. And there's a reason why we know all of us grew up knowing that the commissioner of police is a guy you go to report your matter to. And the guy will bring the other guy who has stolen your gold or whatever. So they're all called ethics commissioners. So you say you are the ethics commissioner for Balikumbat or Baford or wherever it is. They are called commissioners. Thank you. I just wanted to make this point.
I saw as though Dr. Thomas Ndola joined us at this tail end. Doctor, if the studio can permit you to say something in 1 minute before we close, then you are welcome to the program. Okay. All right. Yeah, I thought maybe it was some way of they're trying to signal us that somebody has just joined us. Okay. I think our time is up actually, and we are grateful to the studio for making up the time we lost at the beginning. And we want to say that please, ethics is the moral fabric on which Amazonia is being built on. And so we want to say that just like we grew up with our mothers, and they say, don't see money on the road and pick. Let a stranger not give you money and you collect. Just a little thing that our mothers did and our fathers did that brought us morality. And what we are trying to say here is that we need these things back into Amazonia. For we have lost, just like from what Barrister have said, we've lost ethics, in fact. When we see how people lash at others and in our forums, and it just tells us that there is much more for us to do. And so we say that it's better late than never. Let's start now to bring back those morals back that we lost, and based on the rogue regime in which we got ourselves entangled with, and they made it to be like a norm, a usual thing. If you didn't collect bribe, it was strange. If you were just police, that was very straight. They look at you strange. Your name was a household name when you were a right police or a right gendarme that does not collect bribe. See, they totally came and changed the whole thing. Meanwhile, you were a household name if you maintain ethics in the days of our fathers and our forefathers, and that's what we are trying to bring back. And so you are all, we want to thank you all for joining us in the program today. For our panelists and Mamanga that was co-host with me, we want to say thank you and see you again next week, Friday, 10 p.m. Amba time, for another edition of the program, Ethics for an Emerging Nation, Amazonia. God bless you, and see you then again for another episode. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank
Thank you. Bye.
Okay.
Yes, entertainment.
Money, make you help your brother, If you know thank God, you go and I forgot, Brother, make you find work, or you remain the suffer. Holding my hand, we make come together. If I do you bad, if I do you good, if I promise and fail you, if I do you good, man, I am young, tell me Jenny come on. In a winter, when you come on. Man, I am young, yummy tangy come on. In a jumping, tell me come on. Tell me come on. Money, make you help your brother. If you know thank God, you go and I forgot. Brother, make you find work, or you remain the suffer. Only my hand, we may come together. If I do you bad, if I do you good, if I promise and fail you, if I do you good, man, I am young, tell me Jenny come on. In a winter, when you come on. Man, I am young, yummy tangy come on. In a jumping, tell me come on. Tell me come on. Man, I am young, tell me Jenny come on. In a winter, when you come on. Man, I am young, yummy tangy come on. In a jumping, tell me come on. Tell me come on.